smoking table and the whole 9 yards. So yeah, and so my grandmother lived alone in that house for the majority of my memory. That house was haunted. It's important to note that, because if no one has talked about that house being haunted, it was totally haunted. And I had this reoccurring dream about that house, that I would come in the front door, and then I would go elevating, and I would hover above the living room looking down to the point where I can tell you where everything would have been looking down. So I had this dream. And then I would float over to the stairs, and then I would wake up and I would be like, oh my God, that was so scary. But there was a presence in that house. There's no doubt about it. And it was more apparent in certain rooms. And we all felt it as children. I don't remember us ever talking about it as kids, but as adults, we were like, yeah, that place was haunted. And then everybody has their stories that, we never really shared until we got to be adults. And then we're like, oh, yeah, it was totally haunted. And actually that house, the people that bought it, I don't know if they bought it directly from my grandmother, but I think my grandmother got to the point where she couldn't live there on her own anymore, and she moved to a trailer, and they sold that house, but the people that bought it moved out in the middle of the night with their baby because they said it was haunted. True story.
There you go. So what do you recall about Grandpa's store in Charlotte? Do you remember going to the store?
No, I have no help there. Okay. Nothing.
Got it.
Nada.
What about the cottage?
Memories of the cottage. Your earliest memories of where you now live.
My earliest memories of the cottage were numerous birthday parties. Always having a birthday party there. We had birthday parties there pretty much all the time because it was always someone's birthday, and what better place than the cottage. And we had tons of kids. I can't tell you who they were today, but tons of kids our own age, and many community members. It was just like Aunt Beulah, Zena Fenton, if I'm saying that right, the Smiths, so kids and families. The cottage was just a place where the adults really let loose at the cottage, because the cottage was very isolated when I was growing up. And when we were at the cottage, we were really pretty much guaranteed to be one of, at a maximum, 2 other places might have people in it. Because the cottage was one of the original 3 structures on that peninsula. And the other 2 were inland, I believe, and the cottage is on the water. But that was a place where the adults felt free to let loose, and they had parties there a lot. I mean, wild parties where they kind of spilled out of the cottage and were outside and being loud and making a lot of noise, and it didn't matter because there were no neighbors. And they basically would pitch some tents down by the water, and all of us kids, really young, all the way to, 7th grade, we just all pitched, sleep in the tents all night. So there were a bunch of kids down there, and we would hear the goings on up at the cottage and go to sleep to the sounds of laughter and songs and jokes and people coming outside and singing and just having the time of their lives.
So what is the transition for you like now, having this be your permanent home, your the home where you live, all these years later? Pretty amazing.
Yeah, coming back to live at the cottage full time is like coming full circle in a way. Mm-hmm. And I feel like there's a lot of energy at the cottage that's a very positive energy. I mean, I don't want to say that it's haunted, but I think it is haunted. Mm-hmm. I think there's a presence at the cottage, and it's a benevolent, loving, helpful presence. And I can give you some examples like that may seem silly, but you know, it's hard to explain them any other way.
Mm-hmm.
And one is that occasionally, and I mean, this happens on a regular basis, not just once or twice or something. It happens a lot. So in the morning, I have a routine, and I get up at 5:30, and I da 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 da, and I have my half hour at least of piano time. So occasionally, I will lose track of time a little bit, and I have to go to work, so I can't really lose track of time. But occasionally I will be, you know, into working on something or whatever, and I'm just losing track of time, and there will be this slap, just like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other explanation but that it's someone's clapping, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I gotta go. Thanks. That's my ghost, the cottage. So I'm loved there.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel very at home there. All right, let's wrap this up.
Okay,
One
so-
more question.
One more question.
Can-
Three
can-
words.
no.
3 words to describe the character of our family. First 3 that pop into your head.
Creative, thinkers, leaders.
Nice.
I'll tell one more story because this is a story that really needs.